we discover now in Asian Enigma.
In Asia, stories of the strange and the supernatural have been told for generations. Incredible tales of extraterrestrial life, of unexplained creatures, and otherworldly beings, kept alive by the accounts of eyewitnesses. Real or imagined, how do we explain these strange encounters? From Beijing to Guiyang, thousands of people in cities across China are seeing strange objects shooting across the sky. UFO fever is gripping modern China, with hundreds of sightings reported yearly. What lies behind China's fascination with extraterrestrials? Does China know something that the rest of the world has yet to uncover? This is Guiyang, capital of Guizhou province in southwest China. The city lies on a remote plateau some 3,000 feet high. It is one of China's most isolated cities. It is also home to its most enduring UFO mystery. Locals will never forget what happened here 7 years ago in Duxi Forest, just a few miles north of the city. Lo Wanjian, from the Guiyang Evening News, was the first journalist to witness the aftermath.
I said, wow, what on earth happened here? I was shocked because this must have been caused by something very powerful.
At night, on Tuesday, November 3rd, 1994, farmer Chen Yang-yu was at home with his family. Without warning, a blinding flash of light.
I saw a red light in the sky. It was like two balls spinning around and around. But as it got closer, I couldn't see anything because the light was so bright.
Then, a booming sound so loud it shook plaster off the walls. A few minutes later, the light faded. Chen and his neighbor went out to investigate, but the object had vanished without a trace. At dawn, devastation reigned. Nearly a mile of forest was destroyed. A nearby railway station was ravaged. A force so powerful that it snapped these metal pipes in two. More than 30 eyewitnesses from Duxi Forest told their story. They all spoke of the blinding light, the penetrating noise. For weeks afterwards, journalist Lo worked with a team of geologists and physicists from Beijing. They scoured the area for clues and thought the damage might have been caused by a current of air blowing down from above with tremendous force. At first, they suspected a tornado. But in the end, the facts didn't seem to fit.
Firstly, Guizhou is a forest, and secondly, the terrain is quite hilly, so the force of the wind will be weakened. If a tornado caused this, the trees will not be destroyed in such a clearly defined pattern. Instead, they will be crisscrossing everywhere. This is truly amazing.
There were other anomalies too. Villagers who tried to leave their homes that night reported having difficulty opening their doors. The cameras of local television crews mysteriously failed, and photographers were shocked to find that nearly all their pictures came out blank.
When the pictures were developed, the shots we took from the car were okay, but there was nothing on the shots we took in this area.
Opinions varied, but in the end, aviation experts from Guizhou University put forward a tantalizing theory. A blast from an enormous flying object hovering just above the surface somehow magnetized the area. If this theory was true, it raised other questions. What did it look like? Who created it? And what was the purpose of this strange encounter? Incomplete research makes finding answers difficult, but the idea that this was an alien ship was seized upon by the UFO Research Association in Beijing. For months, they analyzed the data and then produced this impression of its likely shape. China's UFO Association boasts a membership of over 40,000 and includes top scientists and Communist Party officials in its ranks. At its head is Professor Sun Li, a retired academic who worked closely with Chairman Mao in the 1960s.
I approached the subject from a scientific angle. There is a lot of evidence which has convinced me that UFOs do exist. In fact, when you consider the size of the universe, the possibility of the existence of other intelligent beings seems quite high.
Every year, Sun receives more than 500 reports of UFO sightings in China. He believes at least 10% of these are genuine mysteries.
This man told me he was kidnapped by aliens.
In China's first alleged alien abduction case, this young farmer from northwest China claims he was kidnapped in 1991. Meng says he was struck in the head by a powerful laser beam and then transported to a spaceship. Once inside, Meng claims a female alien raped him, promising to return in 60 years with his hybrid baby. But his story doesn't end there. Meng claims capsules were implanted in his abdomen and thigh to control his memory. It is a bizarre story, but local farmers who also reported seeing UFOs flying overhead added to its credibility.
I talked to him personally, and I don't believe that he's crazy or flawed.
From stories about alien abductions to sightings of giant spacecraft, why do millions of ordinary people across China believe in UFOs?
The main reason make them believe it because they couldn't explain what it is. The Westerners, they say UFO is maybe the tornado, balloon, or bush, or weather, but the Chinese don't think that way. They have an open mind, and they're curious in new things.
A less skeptical attitude about unexplained phenomena and a greater willingness to believe even without the hard evidence means there is little taboo about UFOs in China. This is a land where UFO magazines are sold alongside serious science journals, and where science fiction coexists with a love of astronomy. Even the communist government's Ministry of Science and Technology treats the subject with respect. In 1995, it sponsored this 2-hour educational documentary, packed with incredible stories from eyewitnesses. Here, an Air Force pilot recounts how he was pursued by a yellow ball of light that grew bigger and then vanished. 4 other pilots corroborate his story. And this is a recording of an Air China pilot making emergency contact with the control tower. At 9,000 feet, he saw something he couldn't explain. In the West, UFO research has been relegated to the fringes of science. But in China, an open-minded approach to astronomy makes the study of UFOs a respectable endeavor.
When I first saw it, I thought, oh, it's marvelous. I saw it. This is my feeling.
Professor Gao is one of China's most eminent scientists in the field of aeronautics. In between writing for international journals on fluid dynamics, he designs model spaceships, a hobby that began after he saw what he claims was a UFO over Beijing 25 years ago.
Later, I try to understand what it is, what kind of mechanism they use to fly. And that's why I try to do some research and try to make some flying model.
The flying objects I'm researching are very basic. They are miles away from real UFOs. But if we don't try to understand the basics, we'll never grasp their sophisticated technology.
China's first UFO photograph was taken in the city of Tianjin just before the Communist Revolution in 1949. Under the regime that followed, UFO enthusiasts had to tread carefully. But when the country cast off the shackles of strict Marxism in the late 1970s, there was an outpouring of UFO enthusiasm.
UFO 是英语 Unidentified Flying Object 的缩写。
China's first UFO magazine was launched in 1981, selling a staggering 300,000 copies in only a few days. Today, scores of UFO sightings are regularly featured on the state-run news programs. This strange clip made headlines in 1998. It was recorded by a railway worker in southwest China and broadcast nationally. Skeptics struggle to explain what it is or why it suddenly appears to change shape. In Shanghai, this flying object was caught on camera in December 1999. Hundreds of people, from airport workers to college deans, believed it was a UFO. So how do we explain the raft of recent sightings? One theory is that the country's booming economy means more people can afford filming devices, like camcorders and cameras, providing an opportunity for visual evidence of objects that could be UFOs. But for believers, this is a superficial theory. Long before the advent of photography, UFO researchers point to stories of strange flying objects, recorded by ancient scholars and artists in countless manuscripts and drawings for over 1,000 years. This picture tells the 1,000-year-old story of an emperor who encounters a flying boat from the heavens. And in the Qing dynasty, a shimmering ball of light hovering above a bridge in Nanjing was witnessed by more than 30 people. From remote Guizhou province in the west to the sophisticated cities of the east, China's fascination with UFOs shows no sign of abating. Even in cities like Dalian, one of China's richest. With its space-age architecture, it looks like it was designed with alien visitors in mind. At night, the city is lit up in a blaze of neon lights. It is home to this government engineer who has little doubt that UFOs are flying over his city. Jin Fan and his wife, Chen Xiaomei, live in the heart of town. For years, they've been baffled by strange objects passing by the window of their 21st floor apartment. But in 1991, they recorded what they believe was their first UFO.
It was not flying like an aircraft.
It was jumping up and down very quickly.
It moved around in one area, and it was turning around and around towards the southwest.
For 20 minutes, they watched the odd movements and then called the airport authorities. They were told no aircraft had been flying over that part of town.
Dalian has undergone many changes in recent years. We have made great material and spiritual progress. Maybe that's why the aliens want to visit us. We hope that is the case.
While many Westerners have closed their minds to the possibility of aliens visiting Earth, in China, they continue to ask questions.
Human science is based on curiosity. Without questioning and using our imagination, we will never find the answers.
As China grapples with strange encounters from outer space, in Malaysia, mystery lies beyond the grave. Malaysia is one of Asia's most modern countries. Its capital, Kuala Lumpur, boasts sleek skyscrapers and glitzy shopping malls. Yet beneath the hustle and bustle of modern-day living, Malaysians retain an ancient belief system based on magic and superstition that today remains deeply ingrained in the national psyche. A world of witch doctors and black magic, of possession by spirits and voodoo. And the reigning spirit of terror is the Pontianak. According to Malay folklore, the Pontianak is a female Dracula, a woman who dies in childbirth, then rises again, her tormented soul seeking vengeance upon the world.
She looked like an ordinary lady, probably someone waiting for a taxi. And as I approached her, then I realized this could be something different.
Hishamuddin Khan, a Malaysian journalist, was driving home from work late at night when he saw a strange figure in the road waving at him.
She was leaning forward and giving me this big grin. It was very scary.
As he came closer, she took 2 steps forward, trying to block his way, forcing him to swerve.
I was scared. I was scared. But still, as I drove on, I was looking through my rear mirror, and she was still there. She wanted me to stop, to come back and pick her up.
Terrified, Hishamuddin started to pray, reciting an old verse from the Islamic holy book, the Quran.
And suddenly the car began shaking, and there were poundings, loud pounding from inside the car.
After a sudden flash of light, it stopped. Hishamuddin believes he had just come face to face with the Pontianak. Professor Hud Saleh, a renowned anthropologist from the National University of Malaysia, has been examining stories of the Malay supernatural for more than 20 years.
Well, from the time a child is young up to the time he's adolescent, parents keep harping upon the existence of these spirits. It's like they're wired to the mythology, to the folklore of the culture.
Through his investigation of countless witnesses over the years, Hood has tried to understand the Pontianak.
What does she look like?
That's very much like her. the hair, the corner of her eyes.
Malaysians believe she can be both grotesque and beautiful. Inevitably, she's always seen dressed in a flowing white gown with long jet black hair. She sucks the blood of her victims through a hole at the nape of their necks. Is the Pontianak just a figment of the Malay imagination? Or could there be another explanation for what many believe is a spirit of the dead who stalks the world of the living? Deep in the heart of the Malaysian forest lies the village of Pelawan, home to the indigenous Semalai tribe. Far from the frenetic pace of metropolitan Malaysia, the Semalai live a simple and spiritual life. Here, animism, the belief that spirits surround us in nature, is strong. And elaborate rituals and age-old traditions are practiced much in the same way as they've been for over 1,000 years.
Ada tak orang kampung jumpa Pontianak?
Years of research has led Malaysian anthropologist Professor Hood to this remote part of the country. Here, he believes, lies the original source of the Pontianak legend, an ancient myth about a vampirus which continues to haunt Malaysians today.
We have come here to investigate the origin of Pontianak beliefs, of which the Semalai have a very interesting interpretation.
On the other side of Lake Bera lies Pelawan,
Ya, apa khabar budak-budak? Boleh saya masuk?
a typical village of the Semalai tribe.
Nampaknya kena jumpa dengan kaping ni. Wambung. Oh, tu dia.
Professor Hood has come to meet the local medicine man, or Puyang. The Semalai believe that he has the power to conjure up a spirit they call the Matianak. In translation, Matianak means death of a child, but it has one key difference with the Pontianak. The Semalai's Matianak is not evil, but a kind spirit that helps the sick. So how has the legend of an evil Pontianak become associated with this healing spirit? To help him understand, Professor Hood attends the Belian rites, a ceremony to call upon the Matianak. It has been 3 days and nights. The village medicine man performs special healing rites, hoping to recover the lost soul of a villager.
The Puya will cross over through some rivers and some watery spaces until he will meet one of his biggest helpers, the Matianak.
As he sings and chants, the medicine man says he travels to the spiritual realm. There, the Matianak gives him dewdrops to cool his heated body and spells and charms that help him find the woman's missing soul. After the ritual, the medicine man describes the spirit. He says the Matianak is a woman in white with long flowing hair. She has metal hooks on her shoulders from which she swings from the branch of a tree. Underneath the folds of her dress, a baby clings to her.
Puyang, ini macam ni ke rupa Matianak ni?
Ya, rupa Matianak.
Ya.
Pemandang saya rupa Matianak.
Macam ni? Ya?
Ya.
Jadi nampaknya cantik. Puyang suka dia kan? Suka pada dia kan?
Suka.
Suka ke? Sebab apa suka tu?
Suka dia menolong orang sakit.
Oh, dia menolong.
The This portrait is very similar to reports of the Pontianak Professor Hood has recorded in the past. But how did the tragic story of the Matianak become transformed into the modern tale of a blood-sucking vampire?
The Malays have distorted the myth of Pontianak because they do not have an intimate knowledge of the forest. Indeed, they live apart from the forest and have had no good tradition of knowledge about it from their ancestors.
For urban Malaysians, Hood believes the forest has become both alien and frightening, and the story of its ghosts have been transformed to reflect this fear. In today's Malaysia, belief in an evil Pontianak is so strong that faith healers are often called upon to exorcise its spirit. Every day, hundreds of people come to Darussaif, a clinic started by Islamic faith healer Dr. Harun Din. He is so highly regarded that even the government is known to call upon his expertise. Many of his patients believe they've been possessed by the Pontianak. Dr. Harun claims he can heal them by casting out the evil spirits with threatening words and prayers.
You order them, you come out. Go away. Where are you from? Sometimes from Indonesia, sometimes from Thailand. Sometimes. Okay, you go. Go back. You don't come again. If you come again, I hurt you. I beat you.
Today, a female patient has come to ask for help. She believes she is possessed by the Pontianak.
Pontianak ada? Pontianak ada?
Swearing and cajoling, Dr. Harun attempts to exorcise the spirits.
Jangan pergi satu, kena pergi ke semua sekali.
Banyak sakit.
Kalau kamu tidak pergi, kamu akan sakit lagi terus. Kamu pergi ke semua sekali, tinggalkan Salasia, bed saya jaga. Ya? Janji?
Janji.
Kamu sumpah?
Sumpah.
Apa sumpahnya?
Wallahualam.
Salah siah lagi? Demi Allah?
Demi Allah.
Kalau saya buat juga?
Kalau saya buat juga.
Guruh panah kepala patah.
Panah pada guruh.
Bismillah, pantai guruh ya?
Ya.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dah mengucap asyhadu.
Skeptics find it hard to believe in the Pontianak, be it a vampiress or a demon. But many concede that she has a very real effect on Malaysian life.
The Malays have, from the very beginning, been pre-wired, so to speak, to believe in ghosts. You know, from very small, a child will be told by the mother, don't go to the dark place there, you'll see a spirit, you'll see a ghost. Although I have not come across it, I have no reason to disbelieve in its existence. I'm ready to hear and listen, and I'm not just going to say it is hogwash. That's because I understand the culture that I come from.
The mysterious presence of the Pontianak cannot be ignored in modern-day Malaysia. It is an integral part of the country's folklore and religion. Real or imagined, the Pontianak is a link between the past and the present. She's become an embedded part of the Malaysian psyche, and through the stories of eyewitnesses, she lives on, reminding people of their unique heritage. The rainforests of Asia harbor many stories of strange encounters. 1,000 miles north of Malaysia, deep in the jungles of Laos, exists what many believe is a relative of America's legendary Bigfoot. The year was 1966. America's at war with Vietnam. For the first time ever, U.S. soldiers are faced with full-scale jungle warfare. As military missions take forces deep into the heart of the Indo-Chinese forest, extraordinary stories begin to filter back from the field. stories about encounters with strange creatures. As a young soldier in Vietnam in 1969, veteran Tom Jacobs was often sent on reconnaissance missions into the thick jungle. One day, though, he witnessed something he will never forget.
We really didn't know what it was. It sounded like the North Vietnamese were attacking us with tanks.
A band of large primates began throwing rocks at his platoon.
I had heard that there had been previous problems with what we called rock apes, and in fact, at one point, a band of them threw one Marine off the rock pile. And so we were wary of them, without a doubt.
What Sergeant Jacobs had seen may have been any one of a number of primate species which inhabit the Indo-Chinese forest. But several times, he says, they came face to face with a creature that was entirely different.
This animal was stockier. He was of darker color, a lot more muscular. This different creature would, early in the morning, burst out of the jungle into a clearing and just rail at us, just yell and scream and shake his fists. And it was very human behavior, and it was real obvious that he took exception to our presence there.
During the Vietnam War, it wasn't only American soldiers who had run-ins with what appeared to be a type of Bigfoot. On the North Vietnamese side, there were also bizarre reports of a strange creature attacking soldiers in the jungle. One of Vietnam's most respected biologists, Professor Vo Quy, was called in to investigate.
When I go there, many people of this area, the tribal people, told me a lot of story about the white man and make me thinking about this species. Maybe this white man exists in the tropical area, like Vietnam or in Laos. I asked my friend, he's a soldier working in the forest in Laos, and he told me that he saw with his binocular big animals.
The oddest tale he encountered involved American GIs who allegedly captured an ape man from the region.
A helicopter come from the base in the high mountain and bring something strange, a monkey, a big monkey, and they stay in the airport 1 hour, and then they flew maybe to Da Nang.
This account matched the growing number of stories in the U.S. press about a large primate interfering with military movements. But the mystery doesn't end there. 9,000 miles away in Chico, California, around 1967, an unusual carnival display begins to draw crowds. Called the Minnesota Iceman, this creature created such a commotion that Belgian zoologist Bernard Hubelmans examined the specimen. He came to the conclusion it was a new species and gave it a name, Homo pongoides. But after its whirlwind tour around the country, the corpse disappeared and was never seen again. Promoter Frank Hansen would not comment on the origins of the Minnesota Iceman, but rumors over the years have consistently pointed to the source of this bizarre creature as Indochina. The strongest link yet. Iceman promoter Frank Hansen had been a fighter pilot during the Vietnam War. His unit was stationed in Da Nang at the same time as GIs claim they saw an ape man being airlifted out of town. Could the answer to this mystery lie in the thick jungles of Indochina? Laos, a land of spiritual beauty, forever pockmarked by heavy bombing during the Vietnam War. For almost 10 years, American planes dropped bombs 24 hours a day in the jungles along its borders. The aftermath of war left the country geographically fragmented, and much of it uninhabitable. Which is precisely why journalist Linda Moulton Howe, a leading Bigfoot expert, believes that a mysterious creature even an Asian Bigfoot, may still live here in the abandoned jungles of Laos.
As an investigative reporter, it is one of the most satisfying things in the world, is to go on the trail of something like this mystery.
Asia is home to at least 4 major areas of Bigfoot sightings. In the Himalayas, it is known as the Yeti. In China, the Yiren. In Vietnam, the Noi Rong. But here in Laos, they call it the Forest Man.
Even the last ice age, which is the last 10 or 12,000 years, didn't penetrate into this region. So when you consider that they have now found 3 mammals that no one knew existed, there's the possibility that scientists are eventually going to discover this tall, hairy hominid that's been described by villagers there for decades, if not centuries.
Laotian zoologist Kamkun Kunbalin considers this area a fertile nest for new species. In 1992, he was part of a team that discovered the Sao Lao, a mammal related to the ox family that was previously unknown to science.
In the area that I found the Sao Lao species there, there are this very high diversity. So I hope that in this area we can find more new species.
It was also in this area that Kamkun discovered an unusual footprint that convinced him a much larger creature existed in the jungle.
It's not bear, it's not woman. The local guy said this species is dangerous. If find the people, then can kill the people.
Clues are few and far between. Stories from Vietnam vets, reports from local scientists, and phantom prints in the mud. Linda Moulton Howe believes that further evidence will be found along the old Ho Chi Minh Trail, where many witnesses claim to have seen the creature. This is one of the first journeys across Laos in search of information that will better identify this elusive creature. From the capital, Vientiane, it's 2 days' journey by road to Sepon, close to the Vietnam border.
We are here on Ho Chi Minh Trail, just close to Vietnamese border. And we go along the road number 9. It's a bumpy road.
At the market in Sepon, farmers gather to barter, trade, and exchange their wares. And on a good day, bizarre stories of strange encounters. With a reconstruction drawing of the Minnesota Iceman, Moulton Howe and translator La Noy search for clues to build a better identification of the creature. Within hours, they locate an eyewitness.
Yes, in the American War.
In the American War, soldiers in Qumran province saw this forest man?
Yes, they did. They saw it in Qumran province.
And was he one of the soldiers?
This former Laotian soldier claims that during the Vietnam War, he saw a reddish-black forest man. It made a distinct sound.
It sounds like egg. It's like a monkey man.
As night falls, another eyewitness comes forward. Local villager Buntam Senkam presents Linda with what he claims is recent physical evidence. Senkam's brother found what he calls forest man hairs in one of his traps.
When he returned to look at his cage, it was broken into small pieces. And when he looked over the broken cage, he found it had a bad smell. He saw tracks going up and down the rock, and he knew it must be this animal. The tracks and prints were more like that of a human being, and the hair was not like that of an animal.
Senkum demonstrates the shape and human size of the print and describes it as oval with no claws. He also remembers his brother's impression of the size of the beast.
Big, really big. The creature was about 6 feet tall.
The following morning, Moulton Howe decides to speak to Senkum's brother herself. His home is just outside Villabourie, not far from the Vietnam border. From here, the journey becomes risky. Undiscovered bombs exploding off the beaten track are a tragic but normal occurrence here.
Laos was one of the heaviest bombed areas. They dropped more ordnance here than they dropped in Vietnam.
Tom Roberts is from Mill Search, a company hired by the government to clear unexploded bombs.
Between Sepon and Villabourie was fairly well hit because Route 911 was one of their main roads, so it got a lot of attention. We actually had a bomb go off in the middle of it last October. It closed the road for about 3 months. It was right in the centre of the road.
9 hours travel over dangerous roads in an old Russian military vehicle. These adverse conditions may explain why so little research has been done on the forest man of Indochina. Close to the Vietnam border, this region of Laos is rife with sightings of a mysterious creature. Traveling just 21 miles on the muddy roads takes more than 9 hours. At the end of this long journey, disappointment. Torrential rains have transformed this road into a river.
It's the wet season this time. We cannot cross to Bancador.
So we are not going to be able to get to that village.
Unable to move on, Moulton Howe travels to Villabourie to spend the night. A new day and new hope.
You have an eyewitness here.
After a few short inquiries, Moulton Howe and her team find an eyewitness.
How long for you?
In Villabourie, it appears forest man sightings are not uncommon.
Where did you see it?
I hit a footpath. I saw on the mountain.
Homhok Chantanet says that he saw a creature he finds difficult to describe in the borderlands close by.
Did you ask him what color this hair was?
The color was like the color of pork liver, and it was the same color all over his body.
Look like this color.
Ask him if he recognizes anything about the face or the body that relates to that forest man that he saw. Could he just point it out?
To encourage a more detailed description, Moulton Howe provides a selection of pictures of known primates.
The face look like this, but the body quite different.
Legs of a chimpanzee and face of an Australopithecine, one of our distant ancestors. Homhok Chanhanet pieces together a forest man. But in Laos, eyewitness accounts may be fused with age-old folklore.
When I was small, my parents told me that I should be careful when going out to the forest and the jungle far away from home. They warned me, no giggling, no shouting out loud, otherwise the forest man would come and get me.
If folklore influences the accounts of local eyewitnesses, what about the stories of those unfamiliar with the mythology who also insist they have seen a mysterious creature? The large primates described by American soldiers during the Vietnam War are believed by zoologists to be a rare species known as the stump-tail macaque. These elusive red-faced mammals can grow to a height of 4 feet. They are one of the largest known monkeys in the region. Are eyewitnesses confusing forest man sightings with those of known primates? Or had they caught a glimpse of a creature yet to be discovered by science?
The Vietnam jungles were mysterious places. I mean, everybody had a story, and some guys had 3 or 4. I think there was a lot of wildlife out there that nobody's ever seen before.
Sankham's forest man hairs were recently tested by zoologists in the United States, but the results were inconclusive. The sample was too small to provide an accurate assessment.
The problem is, right now, it is all so elusive. There are the tracks, there are the drawings, but science says you have to have a body.
What is certain is that entirely new species are discovered all the time in the diverse jungles of Laos. But with only eyewitness accounts, the mystery of Indochina's forest man remains unsolved.
If there is any place on the planet where a holdover, some kind of a hominid not yet discovered could be, it could be up in those mountains in Laos where we were.
Do strange and otherworldly creatures really exist? Or is folklore playing on the minds of those who see? In the remote and unexplored lands of Asia, perhaps a hidden truth lies beneath the mythology, and one day, the mystery of these strange encounters will be revealed.